What's going on, everybody? We are here in Cedar Park, Texas, just north of Austin. We're here for our first speaking engagement. This is crazy to me thinking about a year ago what we were doing with this channel, going around interviewing people in downtown Austin. And now we're here getting our first speaking opportunity for the channel. How are we feeling today, man?
We feel good, man. We prepared. We're coming to hopefully provide some value for the audience here. You know, got a couple hundred people out there. So, you know, we're looking forward to just delivering a good message. That way people can benefit from it.
Yeah, and later on the video, pretty much going to be showing you guys what we talked about in our speech. Kind of our big thing today is we're going to be talking about how people can unleash greatness through content creation. So let's get it.
All right, so my first question for you, Chris, is if you were to go back to when you were in either high school or college, what is the best piece of advice that you would tell yourself?
I think that person wouldn't necessarily have listened, but the reality is I would say that taking the time to go to either college, university, I would tell them don't do that. I instead would try to come up with somebody who is super influential and spend as much time with them as they possibly could. Learn as much as they can so that at the time they actually enter the workforce, they've learned real life skill.
What industry did you decide to pursue a career in?
Specifically got into K-12, so into the educational industry, really around consulting. Consulting is a great business because it really takes and leverages your expertise, which you can get. Like, you can acquire that expertise and then offer that to someone else. That served me, not just in that industry, but as I've diversified into other industries. Now I know I can become an expert and then apply that same philosophy.
What advice would you give to someone wanting to start a business?
Be a disruptor. Trying to figure out, like a better mousetrap, what's that one thing that you're going to be able to do better than anyone else? I would go at it from a perspective of how am I going to disrupt an industry that have done it the same way for the last 20, 30 years. What can we do leveraging technology or leveraging expertise that'll completely disrupt? And even though that's probably one of the harder things to break into, in my opinion, it is by far the largest impact you can make.
For younger people today, especially, whether it's a certain, skill set or attribute, for someone to possess when they're going out into the real world, how can someone become financially free in today's world?
Risk everything. I say this all the time. As an entrepreneur, I take a lot of risks financially. People say, Chris, man, you have such a high risk tolerance. And I tell them, yes and no. I do with money, and it's because I can make more tomorrow. But I have a low risk tolerance with time. So I'm going to go for it. The worst thing to me on the planet is if I watch a Major League Baseball player strike out while looking. Get that bat off your shoulder and swing away. I
guess the next thing I'll ask you, the fun one we've been asking people, but if you had to start from zero and you had 1 year to make $1 million and your life depended on it, what would you do?
Real estate. Borrow other people's money, invest into real estate, refinance, do it all over again.
What market would you look to invest in?
Any real estate that's available to you based on where you are. So it could be commercial, could be residential, could be flipping homes, but 86% of the wealth in this country is tied up in real estate. That's where you want to go. Look 40 miles outside of Austin. Get outside the major metropolitan areas, get into areas where there's still a lot of growth potential. It just hasn't been tapped yet.
And my last question for you is, for someone who did decide to go to college or coming out of school, what is your best piece of advice to someone who is starting out in the real world today?
Make sure that whatever you're going to do, you're all in. Don't try things out. You have to go for it and you have to give it time. A year, 2 years, 3 years is not enough time. You got to be shooting for at least 5 years where you are all in. Sleep on someone's couch. Don't go out to eat. Put all the money you have away so that you can go for it in a way that most people will never have the discipline to do.
It's about 30 minutes before we're supposed to go on stage and speak at our first event. How are we feeling?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. We prepared for this. So, just looking forward to going out there and again, just providing some value for people. And
oh no, are you nervous?
Sure, I'm always a little nervous, but we're built for this, man. You know what I'm saying? I have never had an issue public speaking, so I'm kind of looking forward to it a little bit.
Where'd you learn how to public speak?
Yeah, it's funny enough, we actually really got into public speaking because of Boy Scouts and really just seeing our dad speak in front of thousands of people. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, man.
Let's crush it. 30 minutes, baby. Let's go.
I don't know how the boys are feeling right now, but I'm nervous myself. Let's get this bread though. Let's get this bread.
How are we doing? All right.
There you go.
Yes, we are. All right, so we are the School of Hard Knocks, and we actually have a question that we want to ask you guys, kind of similar to what we do on our channel. And so I'm going to start over here. a question that we've been asking a lot of people recently is, if you were to go back to when you were in high school or college and give yourself a piece of advice, what's the best piece of advice you'd tell your younger self?
Well, either way.
You got it.
Well, I'm going to break the rules, or I'm going to bend them. I'm going to give 3. Number 1, I'm going to quote what Denzel Washington said, always put God first. I did not have God in high school and college. And I will tell you, the minute I found him, my life improved. That was my North Compass. I followed that, and I just stopped worrying about other stuff. The second thing is find someone that loves you for who you are. I've been happily married 3 years now. We have a beautiful 11-month-old at home. Here it is, Chris. I told you I was going to try not to cry. When I found that, I just unleashed full potential. I had someone that I could come home to and talk to. I had someone in the peaks and the valleys that was there. So that's my second. The third piece of advice is find a really good mentor, and then find someone that you can pour into as well. Don't think just because you're only 18, you can't find someone to pour into. You absolutely can. Whether you're in college, whether you're in high school, that platform should never stop. So find a good mentor that'll pour into you, and then find someone that you can pour into as well, because that's where the growing happens.
That's incredible. Give it up for him. All right, and then I have a different question for you. With our interviews, we like to switch it up sometimes, so I'm gonna catch you off guard a little bit of a curveball. So my question for you is, what's your best piece of advice for young entrepreneurs in 2022?
A couple of things. One, don't listen to the world about what success looks like. That's pretty big. The second thing is do it in community. And the third thing is take time to enjoy life while you're doing it. It's a lonely place. Burnout is rampant. And the only person that you're racing is yourself.
Incredible. Give it up for him. And we can't let Mr. Merrill off the hook here. We got to ask you. Okay. We've been talking about this a couple of times, and I love your answer to this. But how can someone scale a business from 5 to 6 to 7, 8 figures?
Yeah. Scalability is always going to come back to how important you think you are in that organization. I have, over the last 5 to 6 years, really tried to become as unnecessary as possible. And the way that I do that is I try to bring out the greatness in everybody on my team.
Incredible. Give it up for him.
All right, you guys are on.
Yes, sir. Okay, everybody. My name is Jack Dumoulin. This is my brother James Dumoulin and our good friend Joshua Smith. And we are the School of Hard Knocks. So basically, we are a media channel that just under a year grew to 1.1 million followers. Our content is centered around going around and asking people in different industries, professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, basically trying to find financial literacy and career mentorship to give to young adults through short-form content. Wow. And so, pretty much we've had thank you. And so pretty much we've had the pleasure to interview the likes of Mark Cuban, the former president of Nike, the former CMO of T-Mobile, the CEO of Hopdoddy, and many, many more. And so today, we want to share with you a piece of our journey to 1.1 million followers by giving you 3 things that you can take to unleash greatness through content creation and growing your brand. But before we do that, we have to take you back and kind of give you a little bit about how each of us on our own journeys unleash greatness.
Absolutely. So I'm James Dumoulin, very blessed and happy to be with you all today. The 3 of us, it kind of starts out with, we're all from the Washington, D.C. area. And we met actually because we were in the same Boy Scout troop. Now, we all became Eagle Scouts together, but ultimately eagled out at different points. And because there's an age difference, Josh is 24, Jack's 22, and I'm 20. So ultimately, when we eagled out, we were kind of at different points in our lives. Now, Josh decided to go to college, but at the same time, him and a really good friend of his were growing and scaling a digital marketing agency that kind of took off and did really well. So we came to a crossroads as either, hey, I'm putting a lot of time into school. What if I put all that into my marketing agency and 10x that? And that's what he did. He left college, had a lot of success with his marketing agency. Jack here had he had a crazy passion for baseball statistics and sports statistics. And he turned that into, he became a mastermind with analytics. And at the end of high school, he ended up entering a competition that was held by Microsoft and Certiport, which it's pretty much through Microsoft Excel. And he went all the way to the world competition and competed in a world championship in Microsoft Excel. And out of 2 million people, he became the #1 Microsoft Excel user in the world. It's crazy. It's crazy. Listen, you got to look it up. I'm telling you, Jack Duma in Microsoft Excel, this is the #1 user of Microsoft Excel in the world. I'm serious. It's a real thing. But through the, I'm serious. It's a real thing. It's one of the craziest stories ever. Like, most smartest kid I know, I promise you. And but through that, it opened up so many opportunities and doors for him. He decided to ultimately, like I said, we're from DC. He decided to move out to Austin and go to UT. But at the same time, he opened up his own, he opened up his own kind of like tech consulting company where he was building out, softwares and integrating that with Excel for companies in different states. And he also led to him having the opportunity. He was pretty much mentored. Everybody knows Buc-ee's, right? So Buc-ee, one of the CEOs, one of the owners of Buc-ee's mentored him for about 2 years. And so for myself personally, I was behind them. He was already out in Austin. And it was around when the pandemic hit and we really saw kind of the emergence of various social media platforms, and in particular TikTok. And I grew really fascinated about how there's all these people that are, finding their passion and they're able to monetize it through just posting content around that. I mean, I was seeing how the creator economy was growing valuations. In the next 5 years, it's going to be over $100 billion. And I was like, hey, this is something I could do. I studied the algorithms and I was able to grow my personal TikTok following to right around 1 million followers in less than a year. And, through that, as I mentioned before, we all grew up in the DC area. The thing about DC is it's a very strict and structured city. It's very centered around government jobs, contracting, defense. I tell people, you want to work for Congress, you want to go into politics, DC's the place to be. But if you're entrepreneurial and have the desire to start your own business, you got to get out of DC. You got to get into a collaborative environment like Austin where everyone's looking to provide value for one another. So that kind of, us having a similar mindset in that sense is kind of what led to a further spark in our relationship.
So how it all kind of came together is late 2020, we met at a mutual friend's house and really reconnected over a couple of years. It's been years since we've seen each other. And we realized we had a lot of similar interests and goals, and we knew we wanted to work on something, but we weren't sure what it was going to be. So the only problem with that is that Jack and James were about to move to Texas permanently a week later. So what we had to do is I was thinking of ideas of what we could do, and a week or shortly after they moved to Texas, I called them and I pitched them on starting an esports and gaming channel, and they agreed. We started that, and we grew it to about 10,000 followers after a couple months. And even though the channel was going well, it wasn't something we were all passionate about, so we decided to pivot. And so what we decided to do is we all have a passion and interest in business, and we wanted to share some of the lessons that we've learned along the way from our mentors and just share ideas with other people. But we soon realized that people don't want to learn about business from some young 20-year-old guys who no one knows who they are. So we had to make another change. And that's when we started to do street interviews. And we noticed after the first interview that we posted, our channel really started to get some really good traction. And so then we saw the greater vision for the company, and we wanted to seek out the best of the best. And that's how we've been able to get interviews like Mark Cuban, CEO of Hopdoddy, and others. And that's where we were really just able to grow the channel, and it really took off after that point, once we started doing the interviews.
100%. And so looking back at our journey of how that kind of brought us together to start the School of Hard Knocks, which is the name of our channel, we were able to comprise some of the lessons that we actually learned from content creation, and we want to bring that to you today. And so we have 3 major things. The first being is that when you want to create content and grow your brand, you need to find your why. And although find your why might sound kind of cliche, like, oh, find your why, what even is that? The reason why I say it's important is because if you don't have a why, if you don't have a mission for why you want to create content or grow your brand, you're going to run into 2 things as a content creator that stumbles every kind of creator early on in their journey. The first of that being is getting discouraged with views, likes, followers, the numbers. You get discouraged if you post a video and it just doesn't do well. James actually gave me great advice on this while he was growing his brand.
Yeah, and this is something that I really tried to instill kind of in our mindset when we were going forward with Hard Knocks, is that when you're starting out, when you're getting out of your comfort zone, you may not be used to putting yourself behind a camera, putting that content out to where potentially hundreds and thousands of people can see it. And, therefore, you really just have to, like he said, you can't get discouraged. You can't care about what other people think. You just have to go for it. If you have the vision, if you see the potential in it, just send it, go for it. And I'm telling you, as long as you remember why you're doing it and the greater purpose, it's going to pay off.
Exactly. So the first thing being, you have to overcome being discouraged about views. You could put 1 piece of content, 3 pieces of content, 5 pieces of content. It doesn't do well. If you ultimately decide to give up and quit just because not enough people saw your content at first, then you're never going to be able to start a channel. For us in particular, for the School of Hard Knocks, when we started doing business content, we had put out 200 pieces of content on our Instagram for over a month and only had about 35, 40 followers to begin with. That's not a lot of support for putting out 200 pieces of good quality content. And so if you don't have your why, you're just going to quit. The second being is you can't be afraid of failure. You can't be afraid of people judging you when you get on camera. You can't be afraid of what they think of you, because if you ultimately have your mission, your why, and why you're making this great content for people, then that stuff's not going to matter to you. For us in particular, when we went up and interviewed Mark Cuban, we actually saw him at South by Southwest just after he gave a talk on the street. If we didn't have the courage to go up and ask him and say, hey, we run this channel, we want to give back to the younger generation, could we ask you a question, what advice would you tell your younger self? If we were so afraid of getting rejected by him, then that video never would have gotten posted, never would have gotten the millions of views that it did and the people that it impacted. When we saw the impact of videos like our interview with Mark Cuban, we quickly realized that our impact spread beyond the United States. Over 50% of our 1.1 million following is outside of the US. And we even had people reaching out to us and saying, hey, I just started my dream business on the side of my job because of a video that we saw. We even saw that people were starting to save money. And so that ultimately is why you need to find your why. For us, we wanted to change the way that financial literacy and career mentorship is taught in schools. We also had great mentors around us, and we noticed that a lot of our peers didn't, and we wanted to bring that through our content. But ultimately, if things aren't going well, you can always change it up.
Just like in business, in content is exactly the same. Is if things aren't working out, you need to pivot. And so in our business, we had to pivot twice. Like I said, we started as an esports company, switched to business. People want to learn business from young guys, switched it again to interviews. And this is where things finally started to click. And if things aren't working out for you, you're posting consistently and it's not working, here are some things that I would recommend that you can consider doing. The first thing would be change up the delivery of the actual content. Change up your storytelling and how you're approaching the content and the viewer. And that's the number one thing, is you actually have to focus on the viewer. And the second thing, or also to add on to that, is the editing. The second thing you should consider doing is changing your niche or topic that you're talking about. Let's say you're talking about business overall. Maybe you need to go a little bit deeper and go into a sector like marketing. So a segment within business, go a little bit deeper and talk about that. The third thing I would recommend doing is, if things still aren't working out, is model someone that is successful within what you want to do and model after them. But ultimately, the most important thing you can do is be consistent.
Hands down, for us in particular, the absolute most valuable trait and thing that we brought into, our company and through our content is just being consistent. Early on, you don't have a lot of followers, you don't have a huge base. It's all about volume early on. You've got to be putting out numerous pieces of content. I love to give this analogy whenever I'm talking to people. You have person A and you have person B. Person A, he's getting into content, he's going through the motions, he's like, hey, I'm putting out a couple posts a week. And then you have person B. Person B, he's like, hey, this is my structured posting schedule. I'm going to be putting up 3 to 4 pieces of content a day. When you look at the end of a week, that person's putting up 20 to 30 pieces of content, as opposed to the other person just going through the motions. That person who's putting up all that content is going to beat that person 10 times out of 10 times.
Yeah, I even saw this with James's personal journey when he started posting content. Every single day, he was posting 3-4 times a day for 60 days straight. People might not think making TikToks and videos is difficult. Well, let me tell you, trying to make 3 or 4 videos a day with everything that you have going on for 60 days straight is difficult. And we ultimately saw that him, in that 1 month that he was so consistent, he grew his personal following over 500,000 people within 1 month.
Yeah, and so again, incorporating that, and the biggest thing is, especially when it comes down to the algorithms, is that these social media algorithms, they will reward you for being consistent. They are built off of keeping people on their apps. If you can post consistently, get people to engage with your content, these algorithms will reward you. You will grow, you'll build your base of followers, and you'll scale your business. You'll start to see your views take off. So, once again, if there's any one big lesson that I could give to you that's led to our success, my success, and my personal content journey, it's that you have to be consistent.
Absolutely. And so finding your why for those times when you get discouraged or afraid of failure, pivoting when things aren't working out so you can find the piece of content that works, and being consistent, those three are the ultimate things that we believe will bring you success as a content creator. And so with that, we hope that you guys are able to now go out and unleash greatness through your content and growing your brand. We are the School of Hard Knocks. Thank you guys very much. I'm gonna take a Be Real. Have you guys heard of Be Real? You guys heard of Be Real? Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, this is my man Mariana right here. We just met up after the talk. Yeah, so what'd you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought, we're very well spoken. I really liked it a lot. It took a lot of the crowd by surprise to see how young y'all are and how y'all have found success at such an early age. I had to come up here and say what's up because, hook 'em. I went to UT, just graduated, and I just wanted to hear a little bit more and see, put a face to their brand, and it's something that I just wanted to connect with them. If I have them there, why not take the opportunity, right? They talked about having courage and walking up to Mark Cuban in their speech up there, and what's the worst they could have said? No, right? And I did come up here and we connected. We got each other's numbers. Very personable people. I really, really appreciate them for taking the time. We're gonna go get some coffee later sometime and talk about what it is they're doing, what it is that I'm doing. Bounce off ideas. And I just really appreciated the content that they put out there. They really know how to market to their audience. They know their niche. They know what they're doing, and they have their why. And I think that's the most important part. And so that's something that they really hit and talked about, is just how their why is so important to them and what keeps them being consistent. And I think that's important, especially for our generation. Sometimes we could be looked down upon, especially with social media and how it's all over the place. So make sure y'all have y'all's why too. And keep tuning in, and I know they have a lot of things coming in the future, so thank y'all so much.
Mariana, great to meet you.
It was a pleasure.
Guys, that was our first speaking engagement as the Hard Knocks team. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, I had a great time.
Dude, that was an incredible experience. I was honestly so nervous right before we got on stage, but once we got out there, man, it just, like Chris said, or Zach said, you just black out. You just get in the zone and you do it. So it was an amazing experience. And James, what was your final thoughts?
Man, just super happy to, like they were saying, have this experience, and just blessed to be able to come out here, share some of our value for people. And like he said, man, it was a little nervous at first, but once we got in the zone, we feel like we clicked with the audience, so we really enjoyed that.
If you guys enjoyed our speech or you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of great content coming, and we hope to see you at our next speaking engagement.